Hello and welcome to the PHNX D-Backs show right here on PHNX, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. My name is Derek Montilla. Of course, I am known as your mayor of PHNX, and I am joined today by a very special guest who I'll introduce shortly. Again, it, Jesse has accused me several times of using interviews as some sort of weird way to interview people for his position as vice mayor. And I would never think of doing that. I did do it with Jake, and I may have done it with today's guest. So he might be onto something. But of course, we thank you guys so much for joining us. By the way, before we go on too deep, I want to remind you guys all to go check out our website at gophnx.com if you haven't had a chance to do so already. All of our new members, we're excited to have you guys. We appreciate our existing members. If you're a new member, you sign up for an annual membership. You'll get yourself a free t-shirt from the PHNXLocker.com. And there is a wonderful assortment of t-shirts, including a couple of shirts from your guys over here at PHNX D-Backs, as well as Suns, Sun Devils, Coyotes, Cardinals, the entire lineup of Arizona and Valley teams. Of course, if you're not interested in getting that annual membership, you can sign up for a month-to-month option, and you'll get your first month for just 50 cents. Regardless of the membership status that you choose, you will get access to members-only discounts over at that PHNXLocker.com, as well as access to our members-only Discord, which we have been having some fun with this week in regards to the Arizona Diamondbacks games. It's been cathartic. It's been a fun place for us to go and lament about the lack of offense and how bad this road trip has been against both the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds. After our show last night, or I should say midway through our show last night, the Diamondbacks offense came alive, and it was good to see. Hopefully it carries over to today's game. We are recording this now before today's game, but you'll be seeing it most likely after the game airs. So I'm glad to have you guys with us if you're here. And most importantly, what we need to talk about is this guy helped get us through a rain delay yesterday, and he did an excellent job of it. We are very excited to have today's guest on the show. Again, not a replacement for Jesse, just a possible replacement for Jesse, but he is part of one of the most important families in Arizona Diamondbacks franchise history. He is one of the Diamondbacks' newest broadcasters on the radio broadcast side. It's one and only Chris Garagiola. Very excited to be joined by him. And here's my interview with Chris. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. It's been a pleasure to listen to you this season as part of the D-Backs broadcasting team. I guess my first question is, what has this year been like for you, finally getting to this point and calling the major league team?
Yeah, I mean, first off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate your patience, but this is, if I could have picked any scenario, a couple years back, any team that you want to work for. I think a lot of people look at much older franchises or, kind of in air quotes, historic. I want to work for the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants. And for me, if I could have handpicked any situation, I would have been like, I would really like to work for the Diamondbacks. It's my hometown. I love, the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. I would do anything to live there once again after kind of bouncing around to a lot of these different places around the world, which I'm grateful for. But to actually have this chance to work with people who I've listened to for a long time and people who've been with this organization since day one, I could not have asked for more. And I told someone the other day, there's a level of professionalism that you have to maintain, obviously, in respect for the opposition, but I have never experienced the kind of professional joy that I had after some, early summer Diamondback wins. Like I couldn't believe what I was feeling in terms of just like, I love what I do. And man, we're only a couple months in. I know we're kind of in a downswing right now, but this has been almost indescribable how much I just love doing what I'm doing.
I can relate a little bit to that. Just here at PHNX, right? I mean, it seems surreal, and every day is challenging, but it's a fun challenge, and it's an incredible feeling to be able to do something like this that I think that I've been striving to do, that you've been striving to do, and I know you've been doing it for a long time. You've been working your way to this opportunity. And like you said, it's almost like it's fate with your family's connection to this team and the Valley. It just seemed like the perfect fit for you to be back here. But I guess, I know your grandfather, your father, like I said, the connection to this team, it's been something that's been in your blood since you were born. But what point did you like think I want to broadcast? I want to do that part of this sports world.
It's a very, very, very specific moment, actually. And I'm
Okay.
glad that you asked. I was in Bradenton, Florida. I took a gap year after I graduated high school before starting college, and it was a place called IMG Academy. You might have heard of it.
Know it
It's a
pretty
big,
well.
yeah, exactly. It's a huge sporting complex for those who don't know. Lots of different sports. When I was there, it was originally this Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, but they had baseball and golf, and they were just starting to get like football and lacrosse. But I was dorming with like three other guys, and they were playing, I think, NHL 10, and I was just trying to make them laugh, and I just started doing like my rendition of a hockey broadcast, and what was supposed to be like 30 seconds before I ran out of steam, like I was going for like 5 straight minutes, and they were
Just
just like
calling the
on the
game.
floor, just calling the game,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it wasn't even like a fake high pitch, like oh he passes the puck, and like
Yeah,
no, it
yeah,
was
yeah.
like a real effort, and they were like, dude, how did you do that? Like that was really funny, and just getting that reaction out of them, even though I wasn't really trying to make it like a comedy hour, I was like, that was a lot of fun, and that kind of moment stuck in the back of my brain. And as I kind of learned over the next couple of years, through IMG and then with my time at Trinity, I just didn't have the desire to kind of put in the everyday grind of, 5, 6 hours a day working at baseball, trying to get better at baseball. I just kind of knew even if I had done that, it wasn't going to work out for me in the long run. There wasn't going to be a major league career. So when that kind of faded out, actually playing, then I started giving broadcasting a much more serious look. And a lot of people think like, oh, you must have wanted to be like your grandfather. You must have wanted to follow in his footsteps. I
Sure.
never, when I was growing up, like saw him or watched old tape and think like, now that's what I want to do. I think I saw him
Right.
do that, and I thought, his personality, like the man I got to know who came over for family dinners and holidays and things like that, my personality isn't that different. Like I think that I can do it and make a living from doing this, but I didn't want to try and imitate him, and I certainly
Sure.
don't have aspirations of intentionally, trying to become as famous as he was. He was an American icon in a sense when it came to broadcasting
Absolutely.
at that time. So I'm just doing it because of what I said earlier. I had fun doing it. I
Yeah.
love sports. So, I love baseball. And I enjoy going to the ballpark every day, and it really doesn't feel like work to me at all. Certainly want to get better, over
Sure.
these next years, but
Sure.
you know, it's the cliche saying when you find something that you love doing, it really doesn't feel like going to work.
Well, and I truly enjoy listening to you. I know you
Thank you. Yeah.
personally, and I mean, I'm not just saying that because I like you and you're a great guy. You have been really good, enjoyable to listen to. I thought you handled situations that have come up when you've been calling games well. This situation with these rainouts in Cincinnati and everything like that. But one thing I've noticed is that it's very natural for you. You seem to be able to not only talk about baseball but other topics very naturally, and it doesn't really seem forced. So I guess you definitely seem to have the skill set to be able to be entertaining, because broadcasting is more than just calling the game, obviously, when you're doing it, especially on radio.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm my own harshest critic because
We
while
all
I'm
are
very
sometimes.
yeah, I mean, I'm very pleased with how things have gone this far, but there is still a lot that I think I can get better at. And I compare myself to, the best broadcasters I think in the league. Your Benettis, your Shambys, your Flemings, your Millers,
Sure.
people who've been doing it for decades. And I'm in year one, but I still look at it like, okay, you need to try and get better. You need to try and push yourself to, the maximum limits that you have, but also to your audience members, to people who are listening for the first time, to people who listen from the other team? Are you giving the opposition the sort of respect that they deserve? So, and I have to say, Derek, like this is what you're seeing is the byproduct of 5 years, if not longer, of trying things and trying to get better. I'll be honest with you. Cincinnati's a special place for me. I was an intern here, and the choice to work there led to everything else that came professionally. Worked at
Right.
the Reds AA affiliate, and then we changed affiliates a few times. And then, at the end of the 2021 season, got hired here. But I remember being at Great American Ballpark. Jim Kelch was one of the radio broadcasters at the time. Dave Armbruster, who's the radio engineer for the Reds, he kind of gave me some equipment. Let me set up in an aux booth. And I gave that tape to Jim Kelch. And Jim's, I think, first comment when he listened was, "I'm not exactly sure what you were doing, but I'm not so sure it was broadcasting." It's like, all right, I got a lot of work to do. And I
Uh,
struggled in 17.
yeah,
I
sure.
struggled in those first couple months, and when I became a lead, it's different when you're an assistant versus being the main guy, and it
Yeah,
honestly took me
yeah,
about 70 games worth to find a semblance of, okay, I think this is the personality that I want to have. This is the direction I want to kind of take games in. And then I worked another year and a half. So I mean it when I say I have room to get better, but I also mean it when I say I needed those, 500 plus minor league broadcasts to kind of find my identity. And I'm very fortunate
absolutely.
because, Tommy Thrall, who's the Reds broadcaster, it took him 12 years. And he was and still
Yeah,
is one of the best broadcasters I've ever listened to. And he kind of helped shape my career in a big way. So it took a lot of time. Anyone who does anything creative, I think what you do is a really creative medium.
thank you.
It's not perfect in the beginning. You have to stick with it, and you have to stick through
That's
listening to yourself and going, "Oh man, I know what I want it to be, and this
yeah.
isn't quite where it is."
Exactly. And it's the reps, right? It's the reps that are important. I've told people that so many times when they ask why I did a dumb podcast for years that I didn't get paid for or whatever. It's because if you don't do something like that to make yourself better, to listen back to, then you aren't going to. You're not going to sit around and record fake, broadcasts at home to practice. You kind of need that to get out there. But also sometimes it helps, I think, to be not on such a big stage. So that way, when you make those mistakes, you can kind of learn from them and not always have them, be, kind of in the public eye as much. At least that was my feeling on doing some of the shows that I've done in the past. Right. But
Yeah.
I imagine with broadcasting, it seems like it would be hard not to like emulate somebody that you look up to, or somebody, even if not your grandfather, but like some of the guys you named that you listen to, that you enjoy listening to. It's hard to not, try to find your own personality and not essentially call a game like you're doing an imitation of one of them.
Yeah, I mean, a couple times this season, my dad has called. He's got a really good ear, and he was like, Look, I think you're doing a good job, and most people won't notice, but I think at times you're kind of sounding like, this broadcaster." And I would go back and listen, and I would go, "You know what? You're right." Because you listen to people that you respect, and other people have said, that they're at the top of your profession, and you almost naturally want to imitate that because you think, well,
Sure.
if they're doing it and it works for them, that means that this is the blueprint, and you can't do that. So
Yeah.
it's been different working with a partner again. And so I'm finding a little bit of my voice there. Just when you're talking as a broadcaster of one versus trying to introduce somebody and kind of get their thoughts, and kind of when I'm pulling Candy in or Gonzo in or things like that,
Sure.
I'm kind of relearning that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there are people besides me that have done that on occasion. So I just have to
Absolutely.
kind of lock in and remember that who I am. There are people here with the Diamondbacks who believe that that is good enough, and I just can't deviate from that.
Oh yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's really about the fact that again, as a listener to the broadcast, it's enjoyable. Your personality comes out, and it's enjoyable because it's you, and it comes off as being very sincere. And sometimes it's not easy to do that. with with calling a game, with being like, there's the voice you have to use when you're on the radio, which is just a little different than your voice and all of that kind of stuff, right? But also you're working with a Valley legend in Greg Schulte, and not only has he been considered like the voice of the team for all of these years, but he's tremendously great person to work with. I interviewed him a few years back, and he was just very gracious, and was one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done. So I guess what is working with Greg been like, and how has how has it been kind of being the opposite man to him?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I never thought, and I don't mean to make him feel old, but I mean, since day one, when I was 6 years old, I mean, we would go to the game, but because we were little, I had three older siblings. We probably left around the seventh inning, and what would we do? We put the game
Right.
on the radio,
Yeah.
and there was Greg and
Yeah.
Rod Allen, or there was Greg and Jim Traber, and he has been there from the beginning. He is the voice of the Diamondbacks. And it's crazy to think that this, relatively new franchise, still all these years later, as we get ready to kind of celebrate 25 years, that it's still him. It's still his voice.
Yeah.
And I believe me, I know my role. I'm just filling in for him on some of these road broadcasts. I know that if he were able to, he would like to be out there. Maybe not this 10-game road trip. This is a tough one, but
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For you and the team, for sure.
It's a long one, but he has been so kind. The day I got hired, he reached out and called me, and he's offered some feedback, and he's offered positive support. And he is someone I can just ask so many questions about with the team. The guy's like a walking encyclopedia, not just with the Diamondbacks, but he's been a baseball fan his whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity, because he, like you said, the dude is a Valley legend.
Yeah, he's just got a magical voice, and he's been there since the beginning. So it's for me, it's the same thing, right? Like, I'm such a huge fan of his that to interview him, to bump into him in the press lounge is just still an absolute joy for me. And it's a weird feeling of not necessarily being starstruck, but just still kind of being in awe of him and everything he's done as the voice of this team. And there's been a lot of, obviously, a lot of ups and downs with this team, not only during Greg's time, but obviously this season has been a pretty unpredictable season for this team, and you've gotten a chance to watch quite a bit of it. What are your thoughts on this team's identity, and what we see at times, and the good times and the bad? I mean, is this what kind of, especially on this road trip, is this how things kind of round out to be back to what they expected of this franchise before the season started? It seemed like they were going to maybe, really overachieve this season.
Well, and they still might. I think that when you step back beyond the Diamondbacks and you kind of look at every franchise, there is so much unpredictability based off the expectations we set for teams going into seasons.
Sure.
We looked at the Angels as a perfect example, and they got off to a great start. The Rockies were kind of the same way. Here's this kind of sexy pick in the month of April, and people kind of said with them, and I don't mean it disrespectfully to our DNVR listeners or anybody else, but
sure.
It's we'll just wait till May and June happens, and
they'll be the first to say that. They were saying that when I was saying their team. I'm like, what is going on with the Rockies? They're like,
right, their words, not ours.
Yeah.
Okay, but they've kind of fallen back to maybe expectations, and everyone with the Angels, where it was like, look, they're off to a great start, and it was just like, look, we've kind of been burned a few times with that team, kind of underperforming, and now they have a season worst 13-game losing streak. They just made a managerial change. So to bring it back to us, like, ups and downs, I think that's what I was expecting at the beginning of the season. I knew that we were going to be better than a 52 and 110 ball club.
Right.
In fact, I kind of thought when the over-unders came out, I think the D-backs were at 66, 67 and a half. And I thought, I get it. That's 14 games over what we did last year, and people would point to that. But the circumstances that led to last season's record were so unbelievable, in my opinion, that there's no way that we were going to be anywhere close to that. So I wasn't surprised. I would have been a little surprised, and I think I still would be pleasantly surprised if we won 81 games. That would be a magnificent turnaround. As bad as things have looked right now offensively on this road trip, we're only what, 5 games under?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
And they
pitching.
woke up last night for sure after the rain delay. It seemed like the offense, it's like their luggage got lost and it finally showed up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not don't aggregate this because this is not me officially reporting, but who knows? Maybe, some guys went in the clubhouse and had a meeting. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it certainly seemed like a Jekyll and Hyde after that rain delay where
It
the
really
offense
did.
came alive,
It
which
was
was great to see.
like one run in 34 innings prior to that, and then all of a sudden they're able to explode in that, eighth and ninth inning. So I mean, it was encouraging to see because it like this road trip so far has left us scratching our heads a little bit. But
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. And again, I kind of scream that from the rooftops about last season, and especially when people were picking them to win like 65 games. I'm like, they were missing four. I get it. Everybody had injuries. They were missing four starters at one time last season. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Right.
yeah.
But yeah, this team, at the very least, they seem to, really have invested in coaching staff. And it seems like, obviously, I know the pitching staff, kind of the starting rotation, especially, came back down to earth after that really good start. But it really does feel like the coaches that they put in place are impacting this team positively. Even with the way that the offense kind of disappears at times, it still has looked much better under Joe Mather than it did last season. When you talk about, hard hit balls and home runs and all of that kind of stuff when it comes to this team.
I think Joe's done a terrific job. I know that he was under a little bit of scrutiny at the beginning of the year,
Sure.
and kind of what you were talking about with the pitching last year. Look, people don't realize, or I guess I should say casual baseball fans, when you are taking out an everyday major league player, okay, you're not putting in another everyday major league player that might just be a little bit worse when you kind of compare the skill set. What you're bringing in is essentially a minor league player. And while we have good minor league players, and young players, the reason why they're in the minors is to get more at bats and to get more experience so they can improve their skill set and take that leap into becoming everyday major league players. Drew Ellis is a really good player, okay? But he needs more time. He needs a few more reps. I mean, outstanding defensive player. The bat, I think, is really going to come around. I think we asked a lot of him to be, the opening day third baseman when Rojas was down, Nick Ahmed
Sure.
was down. So it's not fair to ask those guys, hey, go ahead and just get ahead of schedule and be a 260 hitter, with an 820 OPS, please. Like that's just,
On a major league baseball club. Right.
same thing with the pitching last year. You take
Yeah.
four starting rotation pitchers, you bring in four AAA pitchers who, again, they're not ready. They
Yeah.
shouldn't be ready. We're
Yeah.
putting them in a situation because we're just dealt with injuries and say, hey, just go ahead and become major league starters. Like
Yeah.
just snap of a finger. So
Yeah.
so what he's been able to do offensively, what a lot of the coaching's been able to do with Brent Strom, I think Brent is so masterful at connecting with different players from different backgrounds. The way that you work with a Zach Gallen is going to be very different than the way you work with
Yeah.
a Madison Bumgarner or an Umberto Castellanos, for example. So the fact that he's able to almost tailor make a pitching plan for them in the same way that Joe works with our hitters, I think the offense looks very different from what it did last year. I think the home runs have been really impressive because we've kind of seen the science about what's happening with the baseball and the way
Right.
that it just isn't reacting maybe the way it was certainly in 2019, but even as recently as last year. So I think that when you start to see the averages go up a little bit, I know it's kind of an older school stat compared to things like WOBA and weighted runs created plus, but I think when guys start to see hits fall, and I'm also a big believer that, younger teams like we have can be susceptible to the emotional swing. So when a few guys don't hit, it can be a collective thing. But
Sure.
when a few guys, as we saw after the rain delay, a few guys get on base with some hard hit line drives, all of a sudden it seems like the ball is just zipping all over the yard. So
It's like it's contagious no matter which way it goes with this team. That's the one thing that's
totally
kind
agree.
of been baffling with me. Like when the offense disappears, it disappears completely. But when they're able to put up some runs, I mean, everyone's contributing. It's not like at times, especially when you look back at a series, that one particular player didn't really stand out because in game one, Christian Walker contributed, Ketel Marte was a key in game two, things like that. You really see it spread around when it's working, but when it's not, again, it's a bit frustrating to watch because it doesn't seem like anybody's able to do anything. Again, that one run in almost 3 whole games was obviously very frustrating to watch. But it's a fun team to watch this year. I think that's the thing, is it's been an exciting team to watch, and even with the frustrations, even with the losses, it's been exciting. Like, I understand people being mad. I'm not thrilled about it myself, right? But last season there were a lot of blowout losses. There were a lot of games where you just felt, you're like, they're not going to come back, and they didn't. So even if you like changed the channel, you didn't get a chance to be like, oh man, I really missed that comeback victory by the D-backs. Whereas this year, it's been so unpredictable that it's really added to the enjoyment, of watching this team.
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'd go as far to say it is unpredictable. I think that there are some trends that have shifted a little bit, or maybe regressed to the mean. Like we said, we kind of talked where the starting pitching, when you had 4 starters with a combined ERA at like 1.9
Right.
and like a sub 1 whip, you would think, okay, that's probably not sustainable over the course of 162.
Sure.
I wish, but like, let's be real. But I think you can point to that and say the model, the fabric of this team over the next couple of years, their DNA is going to be good starting pitching. And I think that we can look at some of our younger players and we see these moments, not just offensively. I know that at the beginning of the year we had committed some errors, and so that kind of inflates where we are in terms of a defensive ball club. But I also think that, like, in a couple of seasons, one of the things that will be part of the D-backs identity will play really solid, sound defensive baseball. You combine that with good pitching and a young ball club that can really slug. That is kind of the model for teams that are really, really successful, in the regular season, that make these postseason runs. My position will never change on the postseason. You need to have just dominant starting pitching,
Right.
and really kind of solidified pieces in the back end of your bullpen. But that's a conversation for a different time. Where this team is headed right now, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they should be fighting to be a 500 ball club. And they are going to start a lot more divisional games. We haven't played the Giants this year.
Right.
We've only seen the Padres one time at the beginning of the season, and I thought that we were a little shorthanded there. So I didn't think that was the most fair representation of what this club can be. But I'm very curious to see how they perform, because if there's one area that they need to take a step forward, it is being more competitive in the division. These are people that you see every year the most. You need to show that you are part of the class of the NL West. The Dodgers, certainly, with the way that they have played, is certainly against us. There is still a bit of a gap. There is still areas we have to improve, and certainly play better. And anyone in the organization would tell you that. But we can certainly be much better against the Giants than we were last year. We should be winning games against the Colorado Rockies, I think, with the personnel that we have. And I'm very curious to see, what these upcoming performances here in June and July, because that will really tell us where the Diamondbacks are in comparison to last year.
I agree with you 100% about that. And, again, the one thing we thought about this road trip was that these teams that we were playing it was some winnable series, right? But again, looking at how they've performed lately, we came into these games against the Pirates and the Reds when they were playing really well, despite how they've performed this season. It's not about when you play them, or it's not about who you play. It's about when you play them, right? And so we got them around this time. Hopefully we can watch them maybe have that offense carry over here the next couple of days, and maybe split this series with the Reds still. But before I let you go, I did want to talk to you about an important subject, and that's video games. You told me that you enjoy gaming. My first question about gaming is, do you play MLB The Show?
Okay, so I played a ton of, like, Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest when
Yes.
that was on.
Yes.
Like any version of a
God, that was
baseball
a good
game.
game.
If
Yeah.
anyone, I think it's on the Wii. If anyone played like Mario Sluggers,
Yeah.
that game
Yes.
is like ultra underrated.
Yes. Yeah.
So dang fun.
It's
But
like backyard baseball in some of those games, right?
oh
It
my,
was
I
just it
love
was just
backyard. I
fun.
tried to
Yeah.
find a way to like illegally download it. To our legal team, I wasn't able to do so. So, put the phones down. But no, I downloaded MLB The Show on my Xbox. I played a few games at the beginning of the season, but dude, honestly, like, it just takes up a lot of time. And I'm
It's
working a ton of games on the road. And when we get back, I just moved into a new place, and there's like a lot of other things that I'm trying to kind of fit in. But I would like to get back into my MLB The Showtime again and start trying to get some sweet cards.
Here's the thing. And I know because obviously you're a baseball guy, we're baseball guys like playing baseball games, but would you rather in your video gaming get away from baseball since you do it now so much and it's so much of your life and just kind of have an escape when you do play video games?
A little bit. The I think part of the reason why I like gaming is more the social aspect. As fun
Yeah.
as it is to play whichever it is, and I like to experiment with a whole array of things. Like at times you'll find me playing Call of Duty. I there was periods in my life where I was like I was trying to get every FIFA card I could. I love playing the NHL games on
Yeah.
EA.
Yeah.
Witcher 3, one of the most underrated
Such a great
RPGs.
game. Such a great game.
Unbelievable, so much fun. But it's really just the chance to connect with friends, and, I was
Yeah.
never really a person that was homesick, when I was living in places like Cincinnati or, New York or Pensacola, but I think that part of the reason why I never got homesick was because I was able to connect with my friends, and a lot of the times, that was through gaming, and I never felt like, I was 3,000 miles away. So
Yeah,
so
for
I
sure.
love it. At some point here, when I get a bit more settled and I'm able to kind of build out the office the way I want to, would love to try and do some Twitch streaming. Not so much for like my gameplay, but it's a great place to maybe get some players or get some other
Yeah.
interesting people
Yeah. Yeah.
on and kind of
For
treat it
sure.
as a pseudo casual interviews, so they can get their personality out. I think that'd be a fun forum at some point down the road.
I would love to see that. And I've really enjoyed watching you on the broadcast or listening to you, I should say, on the broadcast this year. You've done an absolute outstanding job and it's been a joy. So thank you so much for joining us, Chris. And we look forward to listening to you all season long.
Thank you, man. Big shout out to the entire PHNX crew. You guys are awesome.
Thanks, man. Thank you. We appreciate it. Big thank you again to Chris Garagiola for coming on the show. Excited to maybe get in on a few MLB The Show games with him at some point once things get settled down. But very glad to have him be part of the broadcast team. I said it a couple of times during the interview, but I really have enjoyed him on the radio call as well. I love Greg Schulte, but I feel like he definitely brings something different to the call as well. He's just fun and energetic, and I know that's something that sometimes we tend to criticize both the radio broadcast side and the television side of not being as energetic. So it's great for Chris to bring some life to the call on the radio side as well. But of course, nobody can replace Greg Schulte here in the Valley. So again, just good to have them both here as well. And by the way, there's no better way, at least in this guy's opinion over here, of listening to or watching an Arizona Diamondbacks game than doing it with our friends at OG's Brands. OG's Brands edibles have a wide variety of edibles to offer, amazingly delicious variety. I very, very much enjoy all of their flavors. Look, when it comes to edibles, they can tend to be a little gross. They can taste a little strong when it comes to when it comes to the medicine, if you want to call it as such, inside. But let's be honest, we no matter what, we want whatever we're eating to taste good, regardless of the effects. And that's what OG's Brands brings to you: an amazingly delicious variety of flavors that range from stuff like tropical. It's all, but I like all their tropical stuff. So everything fruity in their gummy flavors is on point, and again, delicious variety of flavors. Pina colada, I've talked about it, my favorite. Max's orange creamsicle, and Jesse's is I'd rather not have this conversation. So regardless of what flavor you enjoy the most, make sure to try those over at OG's. Remember also, again, I know I have some friends that say this sometimes they're the 10 milligram regular dose from OG's might be a little bit too much, and they do offer more than one dose. You can get a 3 milligram microdose option now everywhere that you get regular OG's 10 milligram dose. And again, if it's you're not looking for as intense of an experience that you get with some of their higher doses, that's the way to go. I mean, we used to just rip them in half. That's the way we used to do it. But again, who knows how much you're getting in your half, right? And that's one thing that you're getting with OGs. You're getting accurate doses, and you are getting options on your doses. So regardless if you're looking for a chill indica or a fun sativa, again, to watch, I like to watch cartoons on mute with rap music, but do whatever you want to do with your OGs. And again, if you're interested in trying the amazingly delicious variety of flavors that OG's Brands has to offer, go to ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZbrands.com to find OGs near you. And again, we thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank Chris so much for joining us. Look forward to seeing what the Arizona Diamondbacks can do once they get out of Cincinnati, because this has been a very tough series. They still have Philadelphia left on their schedule before coming back to Chase Field. So hopefully they can salvage the second half of this road trip and come home with some wins, and really with things not looking as bad as they did at one point this series, much like yesterday's game, where the end result doesn't look as nearly as bad as it was when the game was 9-0. There is a way to salvage this. And let me tell you, I am not opposed to getting down on the DraftKings Sportsbook in the finale of this series and betting against the Arizona Diamondbacks. You say, Derek, how could you? And I say, why? Because I've been watching these games with my own eyes. But, over at the DraftKings Sportsbook, sometimes you have to make those awful decisions in life. And I like to think of it, and I believe it was Shane that said this to me, but if not, I'm just giving him credit for it anyway. But it's a way to hedge your bets emotionally, right? You can bet on the opposite team if you have a strong feeling that your team is going to lose. And hey, again, just because your team loses doesn't mean you need to lose over at the DraftKings Sportsbook. But remember, you can hedge your emotions here, right? Hedge your bets emotionally. If the Diamondbacks win, yay! It's okay that you lost your bet. And if the Diamondbacks lose, boo! But you won money, right? So there is a way for you to make it a win-win situation, no matter what you want to do, and you can do that over at the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. By the way, get down on the finals. New customers get down on the NBA finals. You can bet $5 on any NBA team, either team to win. It's going to be the Warriors, but you could bet on either team to win. And it doesn't matter, because as long as you bet $5 on the team to win, you as a new customer will get $150 in free bets instantly. It'll come to your account magically. It'll be in little $25 bets. You can add them, sprinkle them around, get down on the baseball action, because basketball, that's behind us. Again, hockey, done soon. Basketball, done soon. Soon, it's our time. We're kings. Don't make me get the baseball bat out again, because I freaking will. No chairs, by the way, were hurt or injured in the filming of this ad. But again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX. Make any $5 bet during the NBA Finals and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And that's all I got, you guys. I thank you so much for joining me. We will be back with our live show on Thursday, our post-series wrap-up after this 4-game series with the Cincinnati Reds ends. So be sure to join Michaela and myself for that. We hope to see you here, of course. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. But of course, our show is at PHNX_DBacks, and all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you're listening to us right now in your favorite audio podcasting app, please make sure that you subscribe to us if you haven't done so already, and leave us a 5-star review. Also, go over to YouTube if you haven't done this already and subscribe to the PHNX Sports channel. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss any of the content coming out from our PHNX team. We have some wonderful stuff coming out all the time, including things like this show, which wasn't planned. But hey, when you get Chris Garagiola on your show to chat not only about baseball, but to chat about video games, you gotta make time, and you gotta make sure everybody gets it as soon as possible. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank Chris again for joining me, and I appreciate it. On behalf of Chris, I guess Jesse and Mac, who aren't here, we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but sometimes you got to play another video game other than baseball, because you just got to get away. You need a break. Sometimes you just need a break.